What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner. And it's a nice, gloomy, what is this, Monday here in Ohio. It's pretty gloomy. It's about to rain on me, I think. And I've been thinking. And it ain't no stinking thinking either. I've been thinking about history, actually. And the history of the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. And I can't for the life of me understand why black people are still voting for the Democrats. Now, we got the elections coming up here in a few weeks, and of course we got all of this mayhem floating around about, how Donald Trump's a racist, sexist, misogynist, and so on and so forth, and that the Democratic Party, of course, wear the white hats, and people have bought into the narrative. Throughout all time, it was the Democrats fighting for the black people and the Republicans. No, not them. They were selfish and racist. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to keep us down because we're brown. They want their foot in our backs because we're black. You know how it is. Grow up in an urban neighborhood and you hear these tall tales and you buy into them. It's kind of like the boogeyman, the great pumpkin, things like that. Stories that we just hearsay, but we don't have facts, we don't have data, we just buy into it. Santa Claus, things like that. And so for years, black people been hearing about the vicious Republicans and how they just hate black people, but yet refuse to revisit history. And it bothers me because I say if you knew the history, you probably wouldn't be out there going down blindly, going chicken for all of the Democrats. I mean, let's just go back a little bit. Let's just take a little trip back in time. Slavery, let me see, who all perpetrated that? It was the Democrats. No Republicans owned the slaves, okay? Then, of course, who established the Republican Party and the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln? What did they do? Freed the slaves. Yeah, and guess what? All of the Democrats down there, they said, you know what, before we let this happen, we'd go to war. Of course, we know they lost. And when Civil Rights Acts was trying to be passed, guess who voted against all of them? Not the Republicans, the Democrats. And what's crazy about that is that you look at the Democratic Party and their resistance throughout history for the advancement of black people. They resisted it every single time. So when they did say, you know what, let's go ahead and give them rights as a citizen, Republicans said, let's do it. All the Democrats said, can never happen. We can't let that happen. Then they went on to say, let's introduce other civil rights bills, that will give them the ability to vote and so on and so forth. Guess what? No Democrats voted for that. All Republicans. Crazy, ain't it? Then you hear brothers, in the raps and stuff, 40 acres and the mule. Yeah, guess who proposed that? It was Republican Party, not the Democrats. To this day, we still didn't get the 40 acres and the mule because President Johnson, a Democrat, voted it down. Wouldn't let it happen. He said, we ain't giving them brothers no 30 acres and a mule. And then, of course, we know what they did when they saw the movement happening to push all types of legislation and civil rights acts for black people and minorities. You know what they did. Then they said, you know what, if we can't beat them, heads up, we're going to go underground and we're going to create an ugly militia, a mob, and we're going to handle things like pretty much kind of like they're handling things today with harassment, with running up on people, screaming at them, intimidating them. So they formed the Ku Klux Klan, and you know what their whole objective was. If any white people that supported black people down south, they're going to get intimidated. And then, of course, black people got intimidated. They didn't even want them to vote. That's what's crazy. See, they didn't want them to vote. So you know what they did? They said, we're going to make a test that's so hard that nobody today probably could pass the test. Oh, by the way, we're only going to give you about 10 minutes. You ain't got all day to take the test. Oh, we forgot to tell you this. If you get one wrong, you can't vote. I'm sorry. So we're going to make an unpassable test for you guys and then say, what? What do you mean we stopped them from? We didn't stop them from voting. Their lack of studying stopped them from voting. If they'd have came in here and knocked this test out, lickety-split, they would be voting. It's not our fault. So who throughout history was fighting for the civil rights of black people? It was the Republicans. Almost like 90% of black people were voting Republican. In fact, we were, deemed as the Republican Party was deemed to be the party for black people. Yeah. And the Democrats was the ones that was sitting on the wheel. And of course, we know they're trying to hit us with the mind trick that, oh, all of a sudden now it is the Democrats who wear the white hats and we support blacks. And somehow, just somehow, the Republican Party became this racist party. Like they just switched. Like they just said, you know what, man, let's swap. You know, we're going to step over here into racism. And y'all come over here and y'all gonna be the perpetrators of liberty and justice and freedom and equality for all. But instead, black people got duped into buying into this. They just changed up their strategy. That's all they did. They said, you know what we gotta do? We gotta flip it on them. Okay, we gotta do a PR move. We can't have them perceiving us as the racist party that have no policies and all we want is power, and our method and strategy is to use all different groups of people for our benefit, you know, through votes. We can't have them knowing that. So we're going to ride in on all these garbage statements about here we are, we want justice, we want equality and all this stuff. But really what we want is power. So all we're going to do is switch up our tactic. We're going to say, you know what, for the slaves, you know what kept them on the plantation? It was their basic needs. I mean, where were they going to go? We got them hooked. They've been on the plantation so long, they get a meal. I mean, granted, they do have to work against their will. Granted, the man can't be in the household. We don't want the family structure with slaves. We don't want that, because at some point, the man might just influence the kids, and they might all say, you know, we can do better without massa. But so what we're going to do, we're going to take the man slave out, and we're going to just desecrate the man. We're going to take all of the masculinity out of the slave community. Matter of fact, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to send an example. We're going to bring out the biggest slave, a mandingo, and all the other slaves is looking and saying, man, this dude is the man. If there's going to be any rebellion, he's going to be the one to start it. And we're going to tie him up to 4 horses, and we're going to rip him into 4 pieces to send a signal to everybody who's watching and all the other slaves that, no, bucking against massa is no good. That's what they did. And guess what? It worked. So the women said, well, we can't rely on the man in the family, you know, and they just busted that all up. The black man became just lowly and, you know, I don't want to get in trouble with massa. And the women said, well, where we going to go if we do escape? We got all these kids, you know, at least massa feed us a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We have to work sun up, sun down. Every once in a while, they let us have a little party and so on and so forth. But other than that, it's good here. And then when you would get slaves, they would say, you know what? I'm through with this. I'm out of here. All the rest of the slaves were so used to being on the plantation. They're like, you gonna leave? You gonna mess it up for all of us. Massa, Kipper here, he said he gonna leave. And guess what they did? They would send out the dogs on them. Yeah, they would make sure all the slaves were mentally enslaved to the plantation, would attack them, and so on and so forth. They made sure that they were enslaved in their mind, not just their body. And anybody who thought outside of that slavery was attacked. Yeah, we can't have them free thinking. Nah, that's thinking to massa. So then you come all the way up to now, you know, to this day. Democrats really have not been a blessing to black people. I mean, what have they given us? Look at all their cities. They allowed them to be violent, just rampant, and so on and so forth. They make a lot of promises, and they have switched the plantation. I got to give it to them. This was pretty clever. Y'all slick Democrats. They switched the plantation. They said, you know what? If we can't beat them, we might as well use them in another way. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them the basic stuff that they need. We're going to give them a little bit of food. We're going to give them a little bit of water, some welfare, some food stamps, stuff like that we know they can't live without. We're going to give them those things, and that'll keep them on the plantation. And we also make sure the man still can't live in the family. We don't want that. We're going to bust up the family unit. Let's keep that going. All right. So we're going to make sure that we do that and keep it going. All right? And so they switched plantations. And so now what most black people think, I can't leave. I'm right here. Massa, you know, he do us good. And they look out for us. And all the other black people, if they say they leaving, we got to do something about this. Thus we get to how the Democrats have attacked and tried to destroy almost any black person that starts to think freely, and they employ a lot of the other slaves that still are enslaved mentally to stop this. They employ slave overlords, which is they bring in some black prominent people who they say, you know what, these guys are your leaders, they're overseeing it, and their job is to whip you back in shape when you try to get out of line. Thus you get the Don Lemons. You get all of them. You get all of the people that's on MSNBC, CNN, who attacking black people for wanting to think freely, like Kanye West, or like what's the 2 ladies, Diamond and Silk? Did you see that? Did you see how it works, y'all? Same parallel. You go back in history, you got Diamond and Silk, you know, thinking freely, trying to get off the plantation. And then when they had the hearing, Massa, you know, the white Democrats, they weren't out there just attacking them like the black ones. All those senators in there was out there attacking Diamond and Silk worse than the white Democratic senators. They was the ones that was saying, let's get all in them. Yeah, we're going to tell them, girl, what's your problem leaving Massa, trying to get off this plantation? Same thing with Kanye West. We know, of course, white commentators, white Democrats, people like that, they might say something about Kanye West, but they know they can't go too far with the racial rhetoric. Okay, we don't want to reveal that we really are the perpetrators of racism and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and employ the overlords, a couple black people we put in place to throw out the real jargon that's going to shame you and get you back on the plantation by calling you, you know, sellout, Uncle Tom, all of those things that they like to call black people. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. We'll make sure that you stay on the plantation by shaming you through using those type of racial rhetorics, because we know you don't like being called that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can call a black person and they eat it. But when you start getting into calling them things like Uncle Tom, sellout, you know, that's when you done draw the line. You done cross some lines when you do that stuff. So anyway, those are some of the tactics that they are using and have been using and continue to use. And black people still, to this day, they don't see it, you know, and they just willfully go down there and participate in the plantation. They like, you know what? We'll vote because we get a little bit of treats from the Democratic Party. We don't question them. We don't push back. We don't do any of that stuff. We just say whatever they say must be good. And then we listen to all of their jargon about how the other party is the one that don't take up for black people, which brings me to my point. Even to this day, who defends black people when the Democratic Party turns on them and shows everybody their true colors that they don't really support black people? They only support the black people that are obedient, the black people that stay on that plantation and do their will, the black people that get out there and echo all of their talking points to keep all the other black people in check. See, those are the only black people they support. But the average black man that says, you know what, I'm done with this, man, I'm leaving the plantation, they don't support him. So you get to situations like when Diamond and Silk was, you know, up on Capitol Hill, and they were testifying and they were being attacked by all of the Democrats and black ones as well. Who came to their rescue like they did when the party first started and throughout all of history, okay, until the Democrats tricked black people into thinking that it's the Republicans that are evil. It's kind of like what they're doing right now, the old school Jedi mind trick. It's not the Democrats that are an angry mob. No, it's the Republicans that are the angry mob, even though your eyes see people grabbing people out of cars, harassing people in airports and hotels and running into elevators and up escalators and all that stuff. That's not us. That's not the Democrats. That's the Republicans. They're doing the same thing that they did when black people start trusting the Democratic Party over the Republican Party. No, we're not the racists. They are. And somehow, without question, people say, hey, I never noticed that. You know, I guess they are the racists since the Democrats told us that, you know, and that's all it was. It was projection. It was the old school bait and switch. It was the let's just come up with a new plan. They're the racists. We're not. We're going to give you stuff to help you out as long as you continue to vote for us. That's how they got us. That's how they got a large majority of black people. And all they do now is attack the ones that aren't obedient to their narrative. Thus, you get them attacking Kanye West. And who's coming to the rescue? Who's fighting for his rights to be able to have free speech and not be called Uncle Tom and a sellout and all of those things? Republicans and conservatives. Who did that for Diamond and Silk? It wasn't black Democrats stepping up and saying, girl, I might not agree with y'all politically, but y'all got the right to see, vote how you want to vote, affiliate with who you want to affiliate with. No, they didn't say that. No, they tried to undermine them. They tried to belittle them. They tried to destroy their reputation. They tried to make sure they couldn't earn a living. And they're doing the same thing to Kanye West. All they're doing is sending a signal by employing all of these black commentators and all of the black entertainers to come out and publicly try to lynch symbolically Kanye West. That's all it is. Or rip him apart by those four horses to show the rest of the black people that are wanting to lead a plantation what not to do. That's all it is. It's like, hey, not only are we trying to destroy Kanye West because we don't want him influencing others to lead a plantation, but we also want to send a signal to those that are secretly thinking, I'm about to bounce too. Do you want to be out there like that? Do you want us to be digging up your medical history? You want us to be talking about your mama that passed away and all this stuff? Notice with Kanye West, none of them was questioning the substance of his rant. They weren't talking about, what he said was wrong morally, nothing like that. Was he talking or pushing hate, racism, division? None of that. He was talking about everybody need to come together. He talked about we ain't all got to vote Democrat as black people. He talked about helping people in Chicago. He talked about bringing jobs back to America. And none of those black commentators say, there's some good that he was talking about. And if we can all work together based on those points, man, we in good shape. Nah, they don't want to talk about that. They focus on how can this black man go meet with President Trump, as racist as he is. This black boy don't know nothing. He can't read. He don't study. All he is a sellout and a tool used by the man, as they all work for predominantly owned white companies that employ them to come out and bash black people on TV. So now we go back to slavery, and those same slaves that was going, massa, him over there, him trying to leave, nah, they ain't having it. But black people and other minorities maybe just can't see that. And that is why I had to make this video. I tried to keep it under 17 minutes. I can go on and on and on about the history of the funky, crooked Democratic Party and how they've been using black people and other minorities for years. That's all they got. And manipulating their mind to do exactly what took place last week, which is attack other black free-thinking people that has the audacity to openly question and expose the Democratic Party. That's all they did. They just upped their game. They just adapted with the times. That's all the Democratic Party did. They said, you know what? We got to change our strategy, our marketing, and so on and so forth because, times are changing. So we got to update it. No more physically whipping them. We're just going to symbolically whip them, verbally whip them, things like that. We're going to make that example out of them. Make sure the rest of the black people know what not to do. And we're going to make sure they hear it, not just from us, because we're going to throw it out softly. We're going to make sure they hear it, though, from their own people. That's what we're going to do, and it's shameful. Anyway, you've been listening to Kevin's Corner. Keeping it real, man, like always. Check me out, Wednesday night, 7:30. Find me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Links are in the bottom. Also, if you get a chance, check out Extreme Tees, my sponsor. Links down in the bottom. Okay, so check it out, Extreme Tees. And also, if you want to donate to Kevin's Corner, there's links in the bottom to do so, and I would appreciate it. And for any black person, Latino, or any other type of minority, this for everybody, vote Republican in November. You don't want to let these Democrats get back in power. Boy, you think it's bad now? Give them just a smidge of power. They won't know how to act. They act a complete fool more than they already been acting. Anyway, God bless you. See you next time at Kevin's Corner.